Last week, Molly and I were lucky enough to play a demo version of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and today we're allowed to talk about our experience, and my first impression of the game is that it's very good. Real quick, before diving in, I want to note that the footage you'll be seeing is not my own. We were not allowed to capture anything, so I'll try to do my best to find relevant moments to help illustrate what I'm talking about. That said, let's get started. If you know me, you know I loved Fallen Order. My favorite style of game is story-driven, third-person action-adventure. Uncharted, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, God of War, stuff like that. Give me that in Star Wars, and of course I'm going to like it. Fallen Order had moments that made my jaw drop, and it remains one of my favorite Star Wars stories since the Disney acquisition. It's probably my favorite Star Wars video game. So the bar was set pretty high, and I'm happy to say that so far, Survivor seems to have not only reached that same level, but also gone above and beyond. We got to play for about 3 hours, and I feel like I barely even scratched the surface of what we can do in this game. This is Fallen Order, but more, a lot more. When I beat the story of the first game, I was excited to keep playing to reach 100% completion, which is something I normally don't do, but I was nearly there anyway. I just had to find a few more seeds and ponchos, easy. The amount of stuff to see and collect and experience in Survivor is staggering. The skill trees are bigger and more complex, there are data disks and resources to find that can be traded in for cosmetics, there are shards and skills to unlock to change your gameplay style, lightsaber pieces, music tracks, seeds, BD1 skins, clothes, and haircuts for Cal, and it's not just different colors of the same costume over and over, no, there are wildly different options this time around, and some of them are a lot of fun. We already know Cal can wear stuff like classic Jedi robes or Luke's yellow jacket from A New Hope. I won't say what, but there were some deeper cut cosmetics that got me pretty hyped up, and I usually don't care about cosmetics in games at all. All these cosmetics and resources and collectibles can be found playing through the story, of course, but there are also a lot of side quest options. The entire demo took place exclusively on the planet Kobo, but after 3 hours of playing there, I was not bored with it. It is way more open than anything we saw in Fallen Order. There's a town that has shops and vendors that you can populate over time. Characters in or around the town will tell you about rumors you can investigate. We decided to do one side quest that felt very rewarding, not just in the context of the game, but also as a Star Wars fan. I wanted to get through as much of the main story as I could in our limited gameplay time, but I was also heavily tempted to experience the side content. I also wanted to constantly stop and just look around. Locations like Grease's Cantina are full of things to look at. I was planning on doing an Easter egg video on the game, but I think it'll be nearly impossible to find everything. Kobo is also home to a number of Jedi training chambers. They're similar to the shrines in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. They're optional, but rewarding and enjoyable if you're into puzzles, which I am. I loved those shrines in Zelda, and I wish I had more time to dive into them in Survivor. The first one you encounter is part of the main quest, but you'll continue to discover more that aren't required, but I wanted to do them. We did solve another one, taking a break from the main story, and I thought it was challenging without being frustrated, and even then, I solved the main puzzle only to see that there were other rewards I could find in there, and I wanted to figure them out, but I just didn't have the time. To me, that's a great sign. We tried to stay focused on the main story, but kept looking longingly at all the other new things we could experience. Speaking of new stuff, the combat offers plenty of options to try out. We mostly used the dual-bladed stance, as in the 2 separate blades, and it was a ton of fun. We only had access to 3 stances in the demo, so we didn't get to try the crossguard lightsaber or the lightsaber blaster combo, but we did get to see one of the devs go through a combat gauntlet where he swapped through all of them and showed off what they can do, and the blaster stance seemed especially cool. There was a moment where Cal used the Force to knock a ton of troopers into the air, and then slowed time, and then used the blaster to target all of the enemies, and then shot them all in rapid succession. It got a cheer from everyone watching. I can only hope I'll be able to pull stuff like that off. Basically, combat felt like it naturally built off of what we saw in the first game, and then added a lot more variety. If you played Fallen Order, the controls are all familiar and felt natural. Some things have changed, like Cal's Force Slow ability is now activated by clicking in both sticks, freeing up the right bumper for some new powers like Confusion, which will make enemies attack one another. And that reminds me, something I was concerned about as we approached this game was how it would handle the start of a new Metroidvania-style story. I love Metroid, but each game opens up with something that removes all of Samus's abilities, and then you have to collect them all again. That works great for Metroid, but it does not make sense for the Force. Cal worked so hard to heal his connection with the Force in Fallen Order, it would make no sense for him to bump his head and forget how to Force push again. I'm so happy to say that's not the case. Cal starts off Survivor stronger than he was at the end of Fallen Order, even in subtle ways, like the fact that he can run on walls a little longer. He also has new gear, like the Ascension cable to help him get around. You start with everything you had in Fallen Order, plus more, and there are still areas you'll come across that you can't access yet, so there's plenty more to come. There are also new features like fast travel, which was a nice touch. I know a lot of fans were clamoring for that after trying to navigate Zepho in the first game. Now you can fast travel between any meditation points you have discovered. I don't think I'm going to use that option much while I'm playing the story, but when that's over and I want to go explore everything else the game has to offer, it's going to be a huge quality of life improvement. Speaking of, the map is vastly improved over the first game. It's so much easier to read, differentiating between what paths have yet to be explored, areas you can't reach yet, and even a little trail to show where you just came from so you don't get lost and backtrack. I liked the map a lot. And there are a ton of updates to little things in the game as well. Simple stuff like better and more noticeable icons when BD wants to scan something, new animations for common actions like unlocking shortcuts, newer improved kill animations against enemies, which takes me to the enemies. There's a lot more variety there as well. You've got the Bedlam Raiders and their battle droids, which were great fun. There's some good escalation in combating them. B1s go down easily. I expected the same for B2s, so I hacked at one and it barely flinched and then shot a rocket in my face. So then, when I confronted my first Super Commando droid, I was sufficiently scared. The B1s sound like they're still voiced by Matthew Wood and provide some excellent funny chatter if you wait and listen to them. The Raiders themselves are also fun enemies, and their leader, Ravis the Gendai, has some really cool history that I can't wait to learn more about. You might be surprised that I haven't mentioned much in the way of story yet, considering we are a lore and story-based channel first and foremost. The story and characters of Fallen Order are really what made me fall in love with that game. Well, we are pretty limited in what we're allowed to say about the story of Survivor. I can't go into details, but so far I am sufficiently intrigued and happy. There's a strange space anomaly near Kobo that might offer Cal and his friends something valuable. Cal starts to become interested in the anomaly as he searches for parts to fix the Mantis. The quest to learn more about it has me psyched, and the way we're going about it so far already had some moments that made me go, no way. Unfortunately, that's about as specific as I can get, but I'll say that like the rest of the game, I feel like I have barely scratched the surface. Like I said, we spent our entire time on Kobo, but the end of the demo allows Cal to travel the galaxy again. I'm really excited to see other planets, and the next location the characters mentioned visiting had me pumping my fist. Oh, and the game is beautiful. I'm sure we were playing on the best possible PCs, but I was impressed with it constantly. I'll admit that's not something I obsess over as a gamer, but the cutscenes felt like a huge step up from Fallen Order, which I already thought looked good. And there were a decent amount of cutscenes to experience. I think there will be a lot more to the story of Survivor, and I was already very happy with the amount of story we got in Fallen Order. Technically, I thought the game played and performed very well. I didn't encounter any major bugs. The only thing I noticed was BD1's model floating next to a zipline instead of being on it. I think that only happened once. I was overall very impressed by Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It was basically what I expected after playing Fallen Order, but with so much more piled on top. Respawn took the foundation of their first game and then just kept adding to it and improving upon just about every single aspect. Like I said, I feel like I just scratched the surface and I can't wait to experience more. I do think my final opinion of the game will come down to the story, but I like what we've seen so far quite a bit. It's the same. I feel like I've just seen the start of things, so it's hard to judge that side of the game, but it's very promising so far. But those are my initial impressions on Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Let me know what you're excited to see in the comments, and make sure to check out everyone else's coverage. Battlefront updates, Eckert's Ladder, Bombastic, As a True, Cubs Fan Han, Corey's Datapad, Ruthless Night Sister, Darth Chaco. There were a lot of great creators there, and I expect their videos are live right now as well. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Star Wars Jedi Survivor coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.